Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. The void didn't care. It never did. It stretched endless and cold, swallowing stars and screams alike. Sirith, a decorated pilot of the Kaelvani Covenant, drifted through its grip, her shattered scout ship spiraling toward the gas giant's churning depths. Her combat suit, a sleek weave of obsidian fibers, was cracked across the chest, its HUD flickering with red warnings. Her copper-red hair, usually braided tight for battle, floated loose, catching the faint glow of the planet's violet storms like embers in the dark. Her breath hitched, each inhale a knife in her ribs. The Kaelvani were warriors, their lives defined by the endless war with the Vrenkari hegemony. To die in battle was to join the ancestral flame, to burn eternal in the cosmos' heart. Sirith had lived for that creed, her kills etched into her ship's hull like a prayer. But now, as debris from her craft glinted in the gas giant's faint light, she felt no fire, only a gnawing emptiness. Her amber eyes, sharp with a pilot's focus, stared into the abyss, searching for meaning. The battle above had been a slaughter. The Vrenkari had ambushed her squadron in Klyros 7's orbit, their ion cannons ripping through Kaelvani's ships like paper. Sirith had fought until her controls sparked and died, until a cannon blast tore her cockpit open, slamming her against the console. Blood, metallic and warm, seeped from a gash in her side, pooling in the 0G. Her left leg was pinned under twisted metal, numb but screaming when she tried to move. What's it all for? She thought, watching her blood drift like liquid stars. The war's roots were lost to time, something about a contested nebula rich in quantum or maybe a broken treaty from centuries past. It didn't matter anymore. The Kaelvani fought because it was their way, their purpose. Sirith had flown 100 missions, each one a verse in their sacred hymn of war. But now, with her oxygen gauge flashing critical, she wondered if the hymn was just noise. Her suit's HUD blinked, 3% oxygen remaining. She ignored it, her thoughts drifting. The Kaelvani code was clear, death in battle was the ultimate honor. To embrace it was to ascend. She closed her eyes, feeling the gas giant's pressure clawing at her ship's remains. The battle's chaos, screams over comms, the roar of explosions, had faded to a dull hum, like the universe exhaling. There was something almost beautiful in it, she thought, sinking back into the chaos from which her people had risen. Her lungs burned, begging for air she couldn't give. She didn't fight it. This was the way. She'd flown well, fought hard. I'm ready, she thought, letting her last breath escape in a faint shimmer of vapor. The darkness behind her eyelids deepened, her mind slipping away. Until something grabbed her. A sharp tug around her torso jolted her awake. Pain seared through her side, her pinned leg screaming as she twisted. Through her cracked visor, she saw her rescuer, a figure in patched, human-made armor, its thrusters flaring against the void. No, her mind roared. I chose this. But the grip was iron, dragging her upward through the debris toward a battered ship hovering in the storm's shadow. Sirith thrashed, her strength fading fast. The human's armor was scuffed, marked with old burns, but their movements were sure, slicing through the wreckage with practiced ease. As they ascended, the gas giant's pressure eased, and starlight broke through the clouds. Sirith's vision blurred, her anger drowned by exhaustion. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was the human's face through the visor. A man, his jaw clenched, eyes blazing with a stubborn resolve she didn't understand. Consciousness clawed its way back, each heartbeat a hammer against her ribs. Sirith kept her eyes shut, instincts kicking in. She smelled antiseptic and burned circuits, not the organic hum of Kaelvani's ships. A steady beat tracked her pulse, too slow, her body fighting to stay alive. The bed beneath her was firm, not the cold slab of a battlefield med unit. She was alive. The thought hit like a punch, stirring a mix of relief and rage. Opening her eyes, she squinted against the medbay's harsh light. The ceiling was a mess of exposed pipes and blinking panels, human tech, utilitarian and ugly. Turning her head, she saw him, the human, slouched in a chair beside her bed, scrolling through a battered datapad. His dark hair was a mess, his face rough with stubble, and his gray jumpsuit was stained with grease. He looked tired, human in a way that felt raw, unguarded. "You're up," he said, glancing over with a lopsided grin. "Thought I'd have to shake you awake. Name's Caleb Marsh, ex-Terran Coalition medic. You're on my ship, the Starling. Took a hell of a beating out there." Siritha's voice was gravel, raw from the tube they'd pulled from her throat. "You should have left me." Caleb's grin faded, but his eyes stayed steady. "Yeah, heard that before. Not big on letting people die when I can help it." He set the datapad down, leaning forward. "You've got a busted leg, a punctured lung, and a gash that nearly bled you out. Moving's a bad idea right now." Sirith tried to sit up, pain lancing through her side. She bit back a gasp, refusing to show weakness. "You don't get it. Death in battle is my people's honor. You stole that from me." Caleb leaned back, rubbing his jaw. "Honor, huh? Sounds like a heavy load to carry. Look, I'm no philosopher, but you're breathing, and that's something. Drink this." He pushed a water pouch toward her, his tone more tired than pushy. Sirith glared, ignoring the pouch. "Why would a human risk himself for a Kaelvani? Our species don't mix." Caleb shrugged, unfazed. "Didn't think about your species when I saw you drifting. Just saw someone who needed help. That's it." His voice was calm, but there was a weight to it, like he'd seen too much to care about politics. Siritha's hair pulsed faintly, a Kaelvani stress response. "Humans are scavengers. Mercenaries. You expect me to believe you did this for nothing?" He laughed, a rough, genuine sound. "And Kaelvani are stubborn as hell, charging into death like it's a damn party. Guess we're both living up to stereotypes." He stood, checking the monitors. "Your vitals are holding, but you're not out of the woods. Rest. We can argue later." Sirith wanted to snap back, but her head swam, her body betraying her. Caleb's bluntness was infuriating, but there was something real about him, none of the posturing she'd expected from a human. As he adjusted her fore, she studied him, broad-shouldered, hands steady but scarred, like he'd patched up more than just wounds. His jumpsuit had a faded patch, Terran Coalition Medcorps, and another she didn't recognize, a stylized bird in flight. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice steadier. "Orbiting Clyros 7, Caleb said. "The Starling's a salvage rig with a half-decent medbay. Your battle's done, by the way. Both sides beat each other to hell and limped off. I was hauling scrap when I caught your ship's beacon. You shouldn't have interfered," Sirith said, her tone ice. Caleb snorted. "You're welcome. Now sleep. That's an order." He tapped a control, and a soft hum signaled a sedative. Sirith fought it, but her eyelids grew heavy, her last thought a mix of anger and curiosity about the man who'd pulled her from the void. Sirith woke to a blaring alarm, her instincts snapping her alert despite the pain. The medbay's lights were dim, emergency strips glowing red along the floor. Caleb was gone. The monitors still beeped, but the ship's hum had shifted, tighter, like it was bracing for something. She tore the fore free, wincing, and grabbed a scalpel from a tray. Crude, but it'd do. The Starling was small, its corridors a maze of patched panels and flickering lights. Sirith limped forward, her injured leg dragging, each step a battle. A muffled curse came from the cockpit. She tightened her grip on the scalpel and moved toward it. Caleb was hunched over the controls, the view screen showing a Vrenkari corvette, its jagged hull bristling with cannons, closing fast. He glanced up, his face a mix of relief and frustration. "You're supposed to be flat on your ass, not playing commando. What's happening?" Sirith demanded, ignoring the pain shooting up her leg. "Vrenkari patrol," Caleb said, his voice tight. "They're pissed, saying we're hiding a Kaelvani fugitive. That's you, by the way." He tapped the comms, and a harsh voice crackled through. "Human vessel, this is Commander Varkes of the Vrenkari hegemony. Power down or we'll blow you apart. You're sheltering an enemy of the state." Caleb muted the comms, muttering, "Enemy of the state, my left boot." He looked at Sirith. "Got any tricks up your sleeve?" You know these bastards better than I do. Siritha's skin flushed copper, her heart racing. Vrankari, don't bluff. They'll board kill me, and you for helping me. Caleb's jaw tightened. Not happening. The Starlings got light shields and a pulse turret, but we're no match for a corvette. Can't outrun 'em either. Siritha's eyes flicked to the view screen, her mind racing. Vrankari tech was advanced but rigid, their tactics predictable. Can you get us into Clyro's 7th storm layer? Caleb frowned. Those storms will rip us apart. Winds hit 500 clicks an hour. Not if you stay shallow, Sirith said. The ion clouds will scramble their sensors. Vrankari rely on direct scans, storms mess with their targeting. Caleb hesitated, then nodded. All right, hotshot. You're calling it. Strap in. Sirith eased into the co-pilot's seat, her good hand working the human controls, clunky but functional. Caleb gunned the engines, diving the Starling into the gas giant's violet storms. A plasma bolt grazed their shields, rocking the ship. Warning lights flashed, but Caleb's hands were steady, weaving through the churning clouds. The view screen filled with lightning and swirling gas, the ship shuddering as turbulence hit. Sirith tweaked the sensors, boosting their output to create a ghost signal behind them. They'll think we're climbing for orbit, she said. Keep us in the storm. Caleb grunted, wrestling the stick. You're one hell of a co-pilot for someone with a busted leg. I'm Kaelvani, Sirith said, a flicker of pride breaking through. We don't quit. The Corvette hesitated, its sensors fooled by the ghost signal. The Starling wove through the storm, its hull groaning. After tense minutes, Caleb checked the rear sensors. They're holding position. Think we shook 'em. Sirith exhaled, her strength fading. They'll sweep the area. We need cover. There's a mining outpost on Clyro's 7's third moon, Caleb said. Small, mostly bots. We can hide there. He glanced at her, a half-smile breaking through. Nice work, by the way. Saved our necks. It was necessary, Sirith said, but her tone softened. For the first time, she felt a grudging respect for the human's grit. The mining outpost was a cluster of rusted domes on a cratered moon, its solar panels glinting under Clyro's 7's glow. Caleb landed the Starling in a shadowed bay, away from the main hub. The air was stale, heavy with dust and metal. Sirith, stuck in a hover chair Caleb had rigged from spare parts, stared out the bay's viewport at the barren landscape, rocks and shadows under a violet sky. How you gonna explain me? She asked as Caleb packed a medkit. Don't need to, he said. Foreman's an old friend, Lena. Saved her crew from a reactor leak a while back. She owes me. He scanned Siritha's vitals, frowning. Your lung's stable, but that leg's gonna take weeks without Kaelvani tech. Try not to do anything stupid. Siritha's jaw tightened. I'm not helpless. Never said you were. Caleb shot back, his tone light but firm. But you're banged up, and I'm not hauling your ass out of another wreck if you push it. They exited the ship, the moon's low gravity making the hover chair glide like a ghost. A wiry woman with gray-streaked hair approached, her face lined from years in space. Marsh, she greeted, then stopped dead when she saw Sirith. Holy hell, that's a Kaelvani. Nice to see you too, Lena, Caleb said dryly. She's with me. Needs a place to lay low, no questions. Lena's eyes flicked between them, sharp but not hostile. That battle yesterday, she's part of it, isn't she? No questions, Caleb repeated, his voice harder now. Can you help? Lena sighed, pointing to a dome on the outpost's edge. Old crew bunk. Systems work, and it's off the grid. Keep her out of sight. Vrankari's ships swing by sometimes. As Lena walked off, Sirith studied Caleb. You've got people risking a lot for you. Not for me, Caleb said, guiding her chair toward the dome. For what's right. Lena's kid was on that crew I saved, half Kaelvani. Outpost docs wouldn't touch him. I don't play those games. The bunk was bare, a cot, a sink, a control panel humming softly. Caleb helped Sirith onto the cot, setting up his medkit with quick, practiced hands. We're good here for a bit. he said. Long enough to get you patched up and figure out what's next. What's next? Sirith asked, her voice sharp. You planning to dump me with my people? Caleb didn't look up, prepping a painkiller. If that's what you want. Or you could stick around, see if there's more to life than throwing yourself into the meat grinder. Sirith bristled. You mock my way. Nah, Caleb said, meeting her eyes. Just saying there's more than one way to live. War's a shitty boss. He injected the painkiller, his touch gentler than she expected. Rest. We'll sort it out when you're not trying to kill me with that stare. The drug dulled her pain, but not her thoughts. Caleb's words hit too close, stirring doubts she'd buried deep. Kaelvani didn't question the war, it was their soul, their fire. But Caleb's stubborn refusal to let her die, his casual defiance of her code, made her wonder what she'd been fighting for. Sirith woke to a low hum, the bunk systems cycling in the dark. Caleb was gone, a datapad blinking on the cot, checking the ship. Stay put. See. She ignored it, easing into the hover chair. Her leg throbbed, but her mind was clear. At the viewport, she saw the Starling, its hull scarred but solid. A grudging respect for Caleb stirred. She'd never met a human who'd risk so much for nothing. An alarm blared from the control panel. Sirith glided to it, her good hand working the screen. A Vrankari dropship was landing, its spiked hull unmistakable. Her skin flushed copper. They were still hunting her. She hit the comms. Caleb, Vrankari just landed. His voice crackled back tense. Stay there, Sirith. I'm coming. But Sirith wasn't built to hide. She pulled up the security feed, watching Vrankari soldiers, hulking, their armor glinting, fan out across the outpost. Lena was arguing with their leader, her hands gesturing wildly. Siritha's fingers tightened on the scalpel. She was no civilian. Caleb burst in, his jumpsuit smudged with oil. Told you to stay put, he snapped, checking the feed. They're sweeping the whole damn place. Lena's buying time, but it won't last. Siritha's mind raced. Does this outpost have environmental controls? Caleb nodded. Yeah, but they're locked down. Why? Vrankari suits overheat and high radiation, Sirith said. Trigger a controlled spike in the reactor's output. They'll think it's a leak and pull back. Caleb's eyes lit up. Sneaky. I like it. He slid to the panel, his fingers flying. Talk me through it. Sirith guided him, explaining Vrankari tech weaknesses. The reactor hummed louder, alarms flashing as radiation levels spiked. On the feed, the soldiers froze, their visors blinking red. The leader barked an order, and they retreated to their ship fast. They're buying it, Caleb said, grinning. Damn, you're good. It won't hold, Sirith said, her strength fading. They'll come back with better gear. Then we're gone before they do, Caleb said. Lena says there's a smuggler's path through the asteroid belt. Leads to a free station in Halvox. We can lose them there. Sirith met his gaze, his stubborn optimism both maddening and grounding. Why do you keep doing this? Risking everything for me? Caleb paused, his grin softening. Because I'm done watching good people die for bullshit wars. And you, Sirith, you're worth saving. His eyes held hers, raw and honest. Before she could answer, the feed flickered. A new alert, a Vrankari hunter ship, sleek and deadly, rising from Clyro's 7 storms. Caleb cursed. They're not giving up. Siritha's amber eyes hardened. Then we run. And we fight. Caleb nodded, a spark of respect in his gaze. Let's move, hotshot. The Starling roared to life, lifting off as the hunter ship closed in, its cannons glowing. Sirith strapped in, her pain drowned by adrenaline. Caleb's defiance, his refusal to let her die, had cracked something in her, a wall she'd built around her Kaelvani heart. As they streaked toward the asteroid belt, the Vrankari hot on their tail, Sirith realized she wasn't just fighting to survive. She was fighting to understand what this human saw in her, a spark worth risking everything for. The asteroid belt around Clyros 7 was a jagged labyrinth of rock and ice, a graveyard of forgotten collisions stretching across the void. The Starling wove through it, its engines a low growl as Caleb Marsh pushed the ship to its limits. Cirith gripped the co-pilot's console, her amber eyes scanning the sensors for the Vrenkari hunter ship trailing them. The pain in her leg pulsed with every jolt of the ship, but she shoved it down, her Kaelvani training keeping her sharp. "Talk to me, hotshot," Caleb said, his voice tight as he dodged a spinning chunk of rock the size of a house. "They still on us?" Ciritha's fingers danced over the controls, her good hand compensating for her injured one. 200 clicks and closing. "Their sensors are locked, but the belt's interference is slowing their targeting." Caleb grunted, banking the Starling around a jagged asteroid. "Good. Let's make it harder for him. Hold on." He flicked a switch, diverting power to the rear thrusters. The ship lurched, weaving deeper into the belt's chaos. Sparks flew from the console as a smaller rock grazed the hull, and warning lights blinked red. Ciritha's skin flushed copper, a Kaelvani stress response. "You're flying too close. One wrong move, and we're dust." "Trust me, I've flown worse." Caleb shot back, his grin half-cocked despite the sweat on his brow. "You handle the turret. Keep him off our tail." Cirith accessed the Starling's pulse turret, its controls clunky compared to Kaelvani tech but workable. The view screen showed the Vrenkari hunter, its sleek hull glinting like a predator's teeth. It fired a plasma bolt, the shot missing wide as the belt's magnetic fields scrambled its aim. Cirith returned fire, a burst of pulses that clipped the hunter's shields, sparking briefly. "Not bad," Caleb said, glancing at her. "You're a damn natural." "I'm Kaelvani," Cirith replied, her voice steady despite the pain. "We don't miss." The hunter's ship adjusted course, its smaller size letting it navigate the belt with eerie precision. Another bolt grazed the Starling's shields, rocking the cockpit. Caleb cursed, pulling the ship into a tight spiral around a massive asteroid. "They're too fast. We need to lose them before we hit the smuggler's route." Ciritha's mind raced, her training kicking in. "There's a debris cloud ahead, remnants of an old mining op. It's dense with metal fragments. Their sensors will be useless in there." Caleb's eyes flicked to the sensors, then back to her. "Risky. We could shred our own hull. Better than being blasted," Cirith said. "Do it." Caleb nodded, his hands steady on the controls. "All right, hotshot. Your call." The Starling dove toward the debris cloud, a shimmering haze of jagged metal and ice particles. The viewscreen filled with glinting shards, the ship shuddering as smaller fragments pinged off the hull. Cirith fired another burst from the turret, forcing the Vrenkari to veer off, their shots lost in the cloud. For a tense minute, they flew blind, the sensors overwhelmed by the debris. Caleb's jaw was tight, his focus absolute. Cirith watched him, a flicker of respect breaking through her guarded instincts. He wasn't just a medic, he flew like a fighter, his hands as sure as any Kaelvani pilot's. "They're backing off," Cirith reported, her eyes on the sensors. "The cloud's masking us." Caleb exhaled, easing the throttle. "Nice thinking. That bought us some time." He glanced at her, his grin returning. "You're not half bad for a half-dead warrior." Ciritha's lips twitched, the closest she'd come to a smile. "And you're not terrible for a human scavenger." He laughed, the sound rough but warm. "High praise from a Kaelvani. I'll take it." The smuggler's route was a narrow corridor through the asteroid belt, marked by faint beacon pulses only those in the know could follow. The Starling slipped into it, its engines dialed back to avoid detection. The Vrenkari hunter was still out there, lurking beyond the debris cloud, but for now, they were ghosts. Cirith leaned back in the co-pilot's seat, her leg throbbing despite the painkillers. The cockpit was quiet, the hum of the ship a steady pulse. Caleb set the autopilot, stretching his arms with a groan. "We've got a few hours before we hit the Halvox station. You should hit the medbay, get that leg checked." "I'm fine," Cirith said, her tone sharper than intended. She hated feeling weak, hated relying on this human who'd upended her world. Caleb raised an eyebrow unfazed. "Sure you're fine. That's why you're sweating like you just ran a marathon. He stood, gesturing to the cockpit door. Come on, hotshot. Doctor's orders. Sirith glared but followed, limping back to the medbay with Caleb's help. The Starling's medbay was a cramped mess of patched equipment and flickering screens, but it was stocked well enough to keep her alive. Caleb eased her onto the bed, his hands careful but firm as he checked her wounds. Your lung's healing, but that leg's a mess, he said, scanning her with a handheld device. Fracture's stable, but you're pushing it too hard. Keep this up, and you'll be limping for months. Sirith's jaw tightened. I'm not some fragile civilian. I can handle pain. Never said you couldn't, Caleb replied, his voice calm but pointed. But there's a difference between tough and stupid. You don't have to prove anything to me. His words stung, cutting through her defenses. She looked away, her hair pulsing faintly. You don't understand. The Kaelvani way is strength. Honor. To be weak is to fail the ancestral flame. Caleb snorted, prepping a nanite injector. Sounds like a lot of pressure. Ever think maybe the ancestral flame doesn't give a damn if you're in one piece or not? Sirith's eyes snapped to his, anger flaring. You mock my beliefs. Nah, Caleb said, meeting her gaze. I'm just saying, maybe there's more to you than some old code. You're out here, still breathing, still fighting. That's not nothing. He injected the nanites, his touch gentler than she expected. Hold still. This'll sting. Sirith winced but stayed quiet, studying him. His face was rough, marked by scars and stubble, but his eyes held a quiet intensity, like he'd seen too much death to care about anything but the moment. Why do you do this? She asked, her voice softer now. Risk your life for a stranger? Caleb paused, his hands stilling. Told you. I'm tired of watching people die for nothing. He looked at her, his expression raw. My brother was a pilot, like you. Flew for the Coalition. Died in a skirmish over some rock nobody cared about. I couldn't save him. But you? You I could save. Sirith's chest tightened, a mix of guilt and curiosity stirring. You lost family to war, yet you saved me, a warrior in that same war. Caleb shrugged, his grin lopsided but strained. Yeah, well, life's messy. Doesn't mean I stopped trying. He finished the injection, stepping back. Rest. We've got a long haul to Halvox. The Halvox station was a sprawling hub of mismatched modules orbiting a dim red dwarf, a neutral zone where smugglers, traders, and renegades mingled under an uneasy truce. The Starling docked in a crowded bay, its hull blending with the patchwork ships around it. Sirith, back in the hover chair, scanned the bustling dock through the viewport. Aliens of every kind, scaly Trovani merchants, hulking Goroth laborers, even a few Vrenkari traders, moved through the chaos, their voices a cacophony of languages. Caleb guided her chair through the dock, his eyes sharp for trouble. Stick close, he said. This place is neutral, but neutral doesn't mean safe. Sirith's skin pulsed faintly, her senses on edge. Your kind thrives in places like this. Chaos suits humans. Caleb chuckled. Maybe. But chaos also means nobody's looking too hard at a banged-up Kaelvani. He nodded toward a corridor marked by flickering neon signs. My contact's this way. She can get us supplies and a way out. The contact was a woman named Zara, a wiry ex-coalition engineer with a shaved head and a cybernetic eye that glinted red. She met them in a cluttered workshop, her hands stained with grease. Marsh, she greeted, then froze when she saw Sirith. You've got to be kidding me. A Kaelvani? Here? She's with me, Caleb said, his tone firm. Needs a safe way off this rock. Can you help? Zara's eye whirred, scanning Sirith. Vrenkari are sniffing around the station, offering a bounty for a Kaelvani pilot. You're bringing heat I don't need. Sirith tensed, her hand twitching toward the scalpel tucked in her chair. I'm no one's prize. Easy, Caleb said, his hand on her shoulder. Zara's cool. She owes me for getting her out of a coalition brig a while back. He looked at Zara. We need a ship upgrade, stealth tech maybe, and a route to Kaelvani space. Zara sighed, rubbing her neck. You're gonna get me killed, Marsh. But fine. I've got a stealth module in the shop. It'll mask your signature, but it's not cheap. And Kaelvani space? That's a death wish with the Vrenkari on your tail. Siritha's voice was cold. I must return to my people. It's my duty. Caleb glanced at her, his expression unreadable. Duty's one thing. But you sure that's what you want? Sirith didn't answer, her thoughts churning. Returning to the Covenant meant resuming her role as a warrior, feeding the endless war. But Caleb's question, his damn human questions, kept cracking her certainty. What was her duty if the war was just a cycle of death? Zara led them to a hidden bay where the stealth module was stored, a sleek device pulsing with faint blue light. As she and Caleb worked to install it on the Starling, Sirith monitored the station's security feeds from her chair. Her eyes caught a flicker, a group of Vrenkari soldiers moving through the dock, their spiked armor unmistakable. Caleb, she said, her voice low. They're here. He looked up, his face hardening. How many? 6, Sirith said, zooming the feed. Armed heavy. They're searching the bays. Zara cursed, grabbing a wrench. You two need to move. Now. Caleb shook his head. Module's not hooked up yet. We need 10 minutes. We don't have 10 minutes, Sirith said, her mind racing. The station's got maintenance tunnels, right? Can we draw them away? Zara nodded. Tunnels run under the docks. Access is in the back. She tossed Caleb a comm device. I'll stall them. Finish the install and get out. Caleb caught the comm, his eyes meeting Siritha's. You up for this, hotshot? Siritha's lips curved, a faint echo of his grin. I'm Kaelvani. We don't run from a fight. The maintenance tunnels were a claustrophobic maze of pipes and flickering lights, the air thick with the smell of oil and rust. Caleb pushed Siritha's hover chair, his boots echoing in the narrow space. Sirith held the comm, her eyes on the security feed pipe through her chair's interface. The Vrenkari were methodical, sweeping each bay with scanners. Zara's voice crackled over the comm, her tone casual as she misdirected them to a distant dock. They're 3 bays away, Sirith said. We need to make them think we're somewhere else. Caleb nodded, spotting a control panel on the tunnel wall. Can you hack the station's systems? Fake a signal? Siritha's fingers flew over her interface, her training as a pilot giving her an edge with tech. Vrenkari scanners are sensitive to Kaelvani biosignatures. I can mimic mine in another bay. Do it, Caleb said, his voice low but steady. Sirith worked fast, rerouting power to a decoy signal in a far-off bay. The security feed showed the Vrenkari redirecting, their leader barking orders. It's working, she said, exhaling. But it won't hold long. Caleb pushed her chair faster, navigating the twisting tunnels. Zara's almost done with the module. We just need to. A blast shook the tunnel, dust raining from the ceiling. Sirith checked the feed. 2 Vrenkari soldiers had entered the tunnels, their scanners recalibrated. They've got us, she said, her voice tight. They're closing in. Caleb stopped, his face grim. All right, new plan. We fight. Siritha's eyes widened. You're a medic, not a soldier. Yeah, well, I'm a medic who's been in too many bar fights, Caleb said, pulling a compact pulse pistol from his belt. You handle the tech. I'll handle the muscle. Siritha's respect for him deepened, her hand steady as she accessed the tunnel's environmental controls. I can vent coolant gas into this section. It'll blind their thermals. Caleb grinned. You're scary when you're pissed, you know that? She didn't answer, triggering the gas. A hiss filled the tunnel, a cold mist clouding the air. The Vrenkari's heavy steps echoed closer, their scanners whining. Caleb crouched behind a pipe, his pistol ready. Siritha's heart pounded, but not from fear, from a strange thrill of fighting alongside this human. The first Vrenkari rounded the corner, his armor glinting through the mist. Caleb fired, a pulse hitting the soldier's chest plate, staggering him. Sirith triggered a power surge in the tunnel's lights, the sudden flash disorienting the second soldier. Caleb tackled him, slamming the pistol's butt into the Vrankari's helmet. The soldier collapsed, but the first was back up, raising his rifle. Sirith acted on instinct, hurling her scalpel with Kaelvani precision. It struck the soldier's neck joint, sparking as it hit a weak point. He staggered, and Caleb finished him with another pulse shot. Breathing hard, Caleb helped Sirith back into the chair. "Remind me not to piss you off," he said, his grin shaky but real. Sirith's hair pulsed brighter, a mix of adrenaline and something else, trust. "You're not what I expected from a human." "Feelings mutual," Caleb said, pushing her toward the tunnel's exit. "Let's move before more show up." They emerged in the Starling's Bay, where Zara was finishing the stealth module install. "You two are a damn liability," she said, wiping sweat from her brow. "Module's online. Get out before the whole station's crawling with Vrankari." Caleb helped Sirith aboard, strapping her into the co-pilot's seat. The Starling powered up, its new stealth tech humming as it cloaked their signature. As they lifted off, Sirith watched the station shrink on the view screen, a flicker of guilt hitting her. "Zara risked everything for us." "She's tough," Caleb said. "And she knows what's at stake. This war's bigger than you or me." Sirith's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Caleb hesitated, his hands pausing on the controls. "I've seen things, shipping logs, coalition deals. The Vrankari and Kaelvani aren't just fighting over or honor. Someone's keeping this war going, profiting off both sides. I've got data to prove it." Sirith's skin flushed dark copper. "That's treasonous talk. My people fight for the ancestral flame." "Maybe," Caleb said, his voice low. "But what if the flame's being fed by lies? You ever wonder why this war never ends?" His words hit like a plasma bolt, cracking the foundation of her beliefs. She wanted to argue, to defend the Covenant, but doubt gnawed at her. The endless missions, the countless dead, had it all been for nothing? Before she could respond, the sensors blared. A Vrankari cruiser, massive and bristling with weapons, emerged from the belt's edge. It hadn't spotted them yet, but its scanners were sweeping wide. "They're locking the system down," Sirith said, her voice steady despite the fear. "We can't outrun that." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Then we don't run. We hide." He pointed to a massive asteroid ahead, its surface pocked with mining tunnels. "Those tunnels are deep enough to mask us, even with the stealth tech." Sirith nodded, her respect for him growing. "Do it. I'll cover our trail." As the Starling dove into the asteroid's tunnels, Sirith triggered a decoy signal, scattering ghost signatures across the belt. The cruiser hesitated, its scanners chasing phantoms. Inside the dark, twisting tunnels, the ship's lights cast eerie shadows on the rock walls. Caleb's hands were steady, but his face was grim. "We're not out of this yet," he said. "But we're alive. That's something." Sirith looked at him, her amber eyes softening. "You keep saying that. Why does it matter so much to you?" Caleb was quiet for a moment, navigating a tight turn. "Because I've seen what happens when people stop caring. My brother, he believed in the coalition, in the fight. Died for it. I couldn't save him, but I can save you. And maybe, just maybe, we can stop this war from eating everyone else." His words hung in the air, heavy with truth. Sirith felt something shift inside her, a crack in the Kaelvani armor she'd worn her whole life. For the first time, she saw Caleb not as a human outsider, but as a partner, someone who'd risked everything for her. The sensors pinged again, softer this time. The cruiser was moving off, its scanners losing the trail. But Sirith knew the Vrankari wouldn't give up. And deep in her gut, she felt the weight of Caleb's words. If he was right, if the war was a lie, then her entire life had been built on a betrayal. "Caleb," she said quietly, her voice almost lost in the hum of the ship. "Show me your data. I need to know." He glanced at her, surprise flickering in his eyes. "You sure? Once you see it, there's no going back." Sirith nodded, her resolve hardening. "I'm sure." As the starling slipped deeper into the asteroid's tunnels, cloaked in shadow and silence, Sirith felt a new fire kindling, not the ancestral flame, but something fiercer, something human. The war wasn't just out there anymore. It was in her, and with Caleb by her side she was ready to face it. The asteroid's tunnels were a claustrophobic maze of jagged rock and flickering shadows, the starling's hull scraping against the walls as Caleb Marsh navigated with gritted teeth. Sirith sat in the co-pilot's seat, her amber eyes locked on the sensor display, tracking the Vrankari cruiser's movements outside the belt. Her injured leg throbbed, but the pain was a distant hum, drowned by the weight of Caleb's words. Evidence. A war fueled by lies. If he was right, everything she'd fought for, every life she'd taken in the name of the ancestral flame, was a betrayal. "Show me," she repeated, her voice steady but raw. "Your data. Now." Caleb glanced at her, his hands still on the controls. "You sure? This isn't just numbers, it's gonna hit hard." Sirith's skin pulsed copper, a Kaelvani reflex she couldn't suppress. "I've faced death. I can face the truth." Caleb nodded, pulling a battered datapad from his belt. He tapped the screen, bringing up encrypted files, shipping manifests, financial records, intercepted comms. "Coalition Black Ops stuff," he said. "Found it when I was still in the MedCorps. Took me a year to crack the encryption." Sirith leaned forward, her good hand scrolling through the data. Payments from the Terran Coalition to both Kaelvani and Vrankari factions, disguised as trade deals. Schematics for weapons designed to prolong stalemates, never to win. Messages hinting at sabotage peace talks, buried under layers of corporate doublespeak. Her chest tightened, the ancestral flame she'd revered feeling like ash in her throat. "This can't be," she whispered. "My people, we fight for honor. Do you?" Caleb's voice was quiet, not accusing. "Or are you fighting because someone's making bank on your blood?" Sirith's eyes burned, not with tears, Kaelvani didn't cry, but with a rage she couldn't name. "Why didn't you take this public? If it's true, you could have stopped the war." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Tried. Sent it to a coalition contact I trusted. Next day, my ship was rigged to blow. Barely got out. That's when I went rogue." He met her gaze, his eyes hard but honest. "This war's a machine, Sirith. Soldiers like you, like my brother, they're just fuel." The sensors blared, snapping them back to the present. The Vrankari cruiser was sweeping closer, its scanners probing the asteroid belt. Caleb cursed, banking the starling deeper into the tunnels. "We're not out of this yet. Hold off on the existential crisis till we're clear." Sirith nodded, shoving her anger down. "There's a junction ahead. Narrow, but it leads to an open cavern. We can hide there." Caleb grinned, despite the tension. "You're full of surprises, hotshot." The starling slipped into the cavern, a vast hollow lit by faint phosphorescent minerals. Caleb powered down non-essential systems, the stealth module cloaking their signature. For now, they were invisible. Sirith's mind churned, the data burning behind her eyes. If the war was a lie, what was her purpose? What was left of the Kaelvani way? The cavern was a temporary sanctuary, its eerie glow casting long shadows across the starling's hull. Caleb worked on the ship's systems, patching stress fractures from their escape. Sirith, confined to the med bay, used the ship's terminal to dig deeper into Caleb's data. Each file was a knife to her beliefs, proof that the Terran Coalition had armed both sides, orchestrating stalemates to keep the war profitable. The Kaelvani Covenant, her sacred home, was complicit, its leaders bought or blinded. Caleb poked his head in, wiping grease from his hands. "You okay? You've been staring at that screen like it owes you money." Sirith didn't look up. "This changes everything. My people, my commanders, they've betrayed us." Caleb sat across from her, his expression soft but serious. "Not all of them. Most are like you, fighting for what they believe. The rots at the top." Sirith's hair pulsed faintly, her voice low. "I was ready to die for the flame. Now I don't know what I'm fighting for." Caleb leaned forward, his scarred hands resting on his knees. Maybe you fight for something real. Not honor, not a code, just people. The ones caught in the crossfire. His words hit her like a shockwave, simple yet heavy. She thought of her squadron, her friends burned in the void. Of Caleb's brother, a name she didn't know but felt in his voice. You make it sound easy, she said. It's not, Caleb admitted, his grin gone. But it's worth it. You're worth it. Sirith met his eyes, a warmth spreading in her chest. For the first time, she saw him not as a human outsider, but as a man who'd chosen her life over his own safety. Thank you, she said, the words feeling small but true. For saving me. For showing me this. Caleb's smile returned, softer now. Don't get sappy on me, hotshot. We've still got Vrankari to dodge. The sensors pinged, sharp and urgent. Caleb bolted to the cockpit, Sirith limping after him. The view screen showed a Vrankari scout drone entering the cavern, its scanners sweeping. They're getting nosy, Caleb said, powering up the engines. Stealth's holding, but we can't stay. Siritha's mind raced. There's a relay station in Halvox's outer orbit. Neutral, run by independents. We can transmit your data from there, get it to both Kaelvani and Vrankari commands. Caleb raised an eyebrow. You're talking rebellion, Sirith. You sure you're ready for that? She hesitated, then nodded. If the war's a lie, I won't feed it anymore. I want the truth out. Caleb's grin was fierce. That's my girl. Let's move. The Starling burst from the cavern, its stealth module cloaking them as they wove through the asteroid belt. The Vrankari cruiser was still out there, its scanners sweeping wide, but the Starling slipped past, a ghost in the void. The relay station was a ramshackle structure orbiting Halvox's second moon, a patchwork of salvaged modules bristling with antennae. It was a haven for smugglers and data runners, outside Coalition or Vrankari control. Caleb docked the Starling in a crowded bay, the air thick with the smell of fuel and burnt circuits. Sirith, in her hoverchair, scanned the chaotic dock, merchants haggling, drones buzzing, a mix of species moving under flickering lights. This place is a mess, she said. Messy's good, Caleb replied, guiding her chair. Means nobody's asking questions. He led her to a comms hub run by a grizzled Trovani named Kesh, his scales glinting under neon signs. Kesh eyed Sirith warily but nodded when Caleb flashed a credit chip. Need a secure uplink, Caleb said. High encryption, wide broadcast. Can you do it? Kesh's eyes narrowed. Vrankari are crawling all over Halvox. Your hot cargo, human. Caleb leaned in, his voice low. You owe me, Kesh. That smuggling bust last year? I didn't rat you out. Kesh hissed but gestured to a terminal. Fine. But if this blows back, you're on your own. Sirith worked the terminal, her fingers flying despite her injuries. She uploaded Caleb's data, encrypting it with Kaelvani protocols to ensure both sides could verify its authenticity. The files would broadcast to the Kaelvani Covenant and Vrankari hegemony simultaneously, exposing the Coalition's manipulation. Her heart pounded, not from fear but from the weight of what she was doing. Betraying her commanders, her code, for a chance at truth. Caleb watched her, his expression a mix of pride and worry. You're sure about this? No, Sirith admitted, her voice soft. But I'm doing it anyway. He squeezed her shoulder, his touch warm. That's courage, hotshot. The real kind. The upload was nearly complete when the station's alarms blared. Kesh's scales bristled. Vrankari breach team, main dock. They're locking us down. Caleb cursed, pulling his pulse pistol. How long till the upload's done? 2 minutes, Sirith said, her eyes on the terminal. We don't have 2 minutes. Kesh snapped, grabbing a rifle from under the counter. Get to your ship. Caleb pushed Sirith's chair toward the dock, the station shaking as Vrankari breaches blasted through a bulkhead. Shouts and plasma fire echoed, the crowd scattering. Sirith's skin pulsed dark copper, her instincts screaming to fight. Give me a weapon, she said. Caleb hesitated, then handed her a spare pistol. Don't overdo it, hotshot. They reached the Starling's Bay, but Vrankari soldiers were already there, their spiked armor glinting. Caleb dove behind a crate, firing pulses that sparked off their shields. Sirith aimed from her chair, her shots precise, hitting joints and weak points. One soldier fell, but more poured in, their rifles charging. We're pinned, Caleb shouted, ducking a blast that scorched the crate. Any ideas? Siritha's eyes flicked to the bay's control panel, mounted on a nearby wall. The docking clamps. Can you override them? Caleb grinned, catching her plan. Hell yeah. He sprinted to the panel, dodging fire, and hacked the controls. The bay's clamps released, venting atmosphere as the Starling's ramp lowered. Sirith fired cover shots, her aim steady despite the pain shooting through her leg. They scrambled aboard, Caleb half carrying her to the cockpit. The Starling roared to life, its stealth module flickering as plasma bolts pounded the hull. Sirith strapped in, her hands on the co-pilot's controls. Uploads complete, she said, her voice tight. The data's out. Caleb gunned the engines, the Starling breaking free of the station. Then let's make sure we live to see what it does. The Vrankari cruiser was waiting, its cannons locking on as the Starling cleared the station. Caleb dove toward Halvux's moon, skimming its surface to dodge the cruiser's heavier weapons. Sirith manned the turret, her shots forcing the cruiser to keep its distance. But the Starling's shields were failing, warning lights flashing red. We can't take much more, Caleb said, his voice strained. Got any last tricks? Siritha's mind raced, her Kaelvani training merging with a newfound clarity. The moon's got an old mining array, electromagnetic disruptors for clearing debris. If we can trigger it, it'll fry their sensors. Caleb's eyes lit up. You're a genius, hotshot. Where's the array? Northern crater, 10 clicks, Sirith said, pulling up the coordinates. Get us there. The Starling streaked across the moon's surface, the cruiser in pursuit. Plasma bolts lit the sky, one clipping the Starling's wing, sending sparks across the cockpit. Caleb wrestled the controls, keeping them steady. Sirith hacked the mining array's remote systems, her fingers trembling but precise. Almost there, she said. The array loomed ahead, a network of rusted towers pulsing faintly. Sirith triggered the disruptors, a wave of electromagnetic energy surging outward. The cruiser's sensors overloaded, its cannons falling silent as it veered off course. Caleb whooped, banking the Starling into a steep climb. That's my girl! Siritha's heart raced, not just from the fight, but from his words. My girl. She shoved the thought down, focusing on the sensors. The cruiser was recovering, but they'd bought time. Head for open space, she said. We need to reach Kaelvani territory. Caleb glanced at her, surprised. You sure? After that data, your people might not welcome you. I know, Sirith said, her voice steady. But I need to face them. To make them see. Caleb nodded, setting the course. Then we do it together. The journey to Kaelvani space was tense, the Starling limping on damaged systems. Sirith and Caleb worked side by side, patching the ship and monitoring for Vrankari pursuit. The data broadcast had spread, fragments intercepted by both Kaelvani and Vrankari channels. Rumors of unrest were already rippling, mutinies on Vrankari ships, protests among Kaelvani pilots. The truth was a spark, and it was spreading. In the Starling's cramped mess, Sirith sat across from Caleb, her leg propped on a crate. The pain was manageable now, thanks to his nanites, but her mind was heavy. What if they don't listen? She asked. My commanders, they'll call me a traitor. Caleb sipped a protein shake, his expression thoughtful. Some won't listen. But others will. You're not just a pilot, Sirith. You're living proof there's another way. She looked at him, his scarred face softened by the dim light. You sound so sure. I'm not, he admitted, his grin crooked. But I've seen what happens when people stop trying. My brother, he died believing in a lie. You're still here, fighting for something real. That's enough for me. Siritha's hair pulsed softly, a warmth spreading through her. She reached across the table, her hand brushing his. You've changed me, Caleb. I was ready to die. Now, I want to live. His fingers closed around hers, warm and steady. Good. 'Cause I'm not done with you yet, hotshot. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. Not just allies, not just friends, something deeper, forged in the fire of shared danger. Sirith leaned forward, her lips meeting his in a kiss that was fierce, fragile, and real. It wasn't about species or war. It was about two people choosing each other in a universe that didn't care. The Kaelvani fleet loomed ahead, a constellation of sleek warships orbiting a crystalline station. The Starling approached under a neutral signal, its hull scarred but intact. Sirith stood in the cockpit, her hover chair abandoned, her leg braced with a makeshift splint. Caleb stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. A Kaelvani officer's voice crackled over the comms. Identify yourself, human vessel. Sirith took a breath, her voice clear. This is Captain Sirith of the Third Wing. I carry evidence of betrayal by the Terran Coalition and our own commanders. Request permission to dock and present to the High Council. A long pause followed, then a new voice, older, colder. Captain Sirith, you are listed as deceased. Your broadcast has caused unrest. Explain yourself. Sirith glanced at Caleb, drawing strength from his nod. The war we fight is a lie, manipulated for profit. I've seen proof. Let me show you, or the ancestral flame will burn us all to ash. Another pause then. Permission granted. Dock at Base 7. Be prepared for scrutiny. As the Starling approached the station, Caleb squeezed her shoulder. You've got this, hotshot. Sirith's lips curved, a real smile this time. We've got this. The High Council chamber was a vast dome of crystal and light, its walls pulsing with Kaelvani runes. Sirith stood before the council, her leg aching but her resolve iron. Caleb stood beside her, his presence a quiet anchor. The council, 5 Kaelvani elders, their hair glowing with age, watched her with unreadable eyes. She presented the data, her voice steady as she laid bare the Coalition's schemes and the Covenant's complicity. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, some angry, some disbelieving. The lead elder, a woman named Vera, leaned forward. You accuse your own people of treason, Captain. Why should we trust a human's evidence? Caleb stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Because I've got no stake in your war. I saved Sirith because it was right, not because I wanted a side. This data's real, check it yourself. You keep fighting this war, you're just pawns in someone else's game. Vera's eyes narrowed, but Sirith saw a flicker of doubt. I was ready to die for the flame, Sirith said. But I've seen what it costs. Our people deserve better. Peace isn't weakness, it's strength. The chamber fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Vera stood, her voice heavy. We will verify your claims. If true, the Covenant will act. Until then, you are confined to quarters. As guards escorted them out, Caleb whispered, You did good, hotshot. Sirith nodded, her heart lighter than it had been in years. So did you. Days later, the Council's verdict came. The data was authentic. High-ranking Kaelvani officers were arrested, and talks with the Vrankari began, cautious but real. The war didn't end overnight. Too much blood had been spilled for that, but the spark Sirith and Caleb had lit was growing. They stood on the Starling's observation deck, watching the stars. Sirith's leg was healing, her strength returning. Caleb leaned against the railing, his arm brushing hers. What now? He asked. You sticking with the Covenant? Sirith shook her head. I don't know. But I know I'm not fighting for lies anymore. She turned to him, her amber eyes bright. What about you? Back to scavenging? Caleb grinned, his hand finding hers. Thought I might stick around. Someone's gotta keep you out of trouble. She laughed, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in years. You're not what I expected, Caleb Marsh. Feelings mutual, hotshot. He pulled her close, their foreheads touching. The stars stretched endless before them, no longer a void but a canvas of possibility. The war wasn't over, but Sirith and Caleb had changed its course. Together they'd faced the abyss and found something worth fighting for, not honor, not glory, but each other. And in that, they'd kindled a fire that might just light the way for a galaxy tired of burning.